Greetings. This video is going to cover 8.1 to 8.5 on the First Amendment. The next one in this Unit 8 will cover rights of the accused. But this one's going to focus on the First Amendment. It's pretty lengthy, but it's important. Okay. So these are the words from the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition. These rights are very important to Americans, and so that's why it's the first of our Bill of Rights. Okay. First Amendment, ready to eat for everyone. Haha, I get it. That's funny. Let's make it a little bigger for you. All right. Let's go to the next one. Big questions you're going to see on this particular video are: what are the basic freedoms included in the First Amendment? What is the Establishment Clause? And what are the limits to the freedom of speech and press? Freedom of religion includes the Establishment Clause. Under the First Amendment, it guarantees that Congress may not establish or encourage a specific religion. Let's go ahead and see if there's anything to write in. So Congress is not supposed to create a government church. That's what that means. And yet, there's prayer, there's Christian imagery permeating governments. So what's going on? The main thing is there's supposed to be a separation of church and state. That doesn't mean you can't be someone of the faith and be part of government. It just means when you're doing government tasks, you're supposed to be focused on government tasks, not issues of faith. But, you are who you are the whole day, so there needs to be balance. As far as schools go, it gets complicated when you have, religious schools, Catholic school, schools that focus on Judaism, whatever. There's no public school-sponsored prayer. That said, you could have a Bible studies club or Bible studies on campus. In fact, we have here at Lodi High. And you must allow student religious groups to meet, as do other clubs, but you can't force someone to pray. Like, we can't force you to pray in church. No government aid to parochial schools. That's generally been the rule of thumb. But they've been giving credits, tax credits for fees for parochial schools. That means religious schools. So how clear that is unclear. Oh, wait. Let me fix this before I do what I did last time again. Yeah, we need to make a copy. I'll make a copy. Okay, go ahead. Put our name in there. Okay. Go ahead and put this one to the left. And then I'll make sure I put my name in there. Freedom of religion. Go Martin Luther. Martin Luther, his treatise, 95 Thesis, led to Protestantism. And let's call this one April 22nd. I think that's when this unit's going to start. Periods. Let's give it the third period today. Okay, and then let's write back those notes in. And Establishment Clause and separation of church and state. Okay, this can get pretty nuanced though. Like, is it okay for public schools to put up images celebrating Christmas? You think about that. Can you do that? Or does that let church and state mingle? Well, to have free exercise, you have to have some ability to express some ideas of your faith. And we do, based on the calendar even. We celebrate winter break. It originally started because people wanted to have some time off for Christmas. And if you don't think that's true, you're wrong. That's what was going on there. You also had the free exercise clause. You have the right to practice your beliefs without limitation when you believe in religion. Are there limits to that? Yeah, it's when someone else's right to not have religion thrust upon them come into you. Well, I want you to consider the pledge for a second. There's a line in it where it says, one nation under God. Okay. So you're agreeing to a God generally. Atheists and agnostics have said this is not something that we should have to pledge to every day, but the politicians have won out. They've also, though, given space for people to not stand, to not express it, but yet it's part of our rules that we do the pledge every day, even though you could have legitimate qualms with it. Anyway, each person is guaranteed the right of free expression. When you think of religion, I want you to think of it like this. Let's go back up one. I want you to think of it as this. Establishment government's not supposed to create religion, but they're also not supposed to impede someone practicing the religion. It's supposed to be balanced. Establishment clause, free exercise, they're two sides of religious freedom. Okay? Generally, they wanted the government to stay out of religion, but they wanted the government to stay out of their religion too, or religion to stay out of the government, vice versa. Anyway, they're trying to create spheres. Let's go to free speech. Each person is guaranteed the right of free expression, whether it's spoken or written. You're supposed to be able to say and think what you want. But there are many limits to this. You have no right to commit libel. You have no right to say something false and harsh that damages someone's reputation. No. So if you're spreading lies about people on the internet, you're committing a crime. And you're being a terrible person. Both things are true. If you're just saying things and you're posting it in a video, that's also a crime, but that crime is slander. Um, if you're saying something true about someone, it's not libel or slander. Um, it might not be cool though, so maybe you still shouldn't do it. But yeah, here's my advice to you, given the internet technology of today: do not click submit in anger, and then you'll avoid doing things you regret online and otherwise. Sedition. This is a law that says you cannot advocate to overthrow the government. That is considered sedition and against the law. Not advocate or urge the overthrow of government. Um, well, then is it a crime to be a communist? Only if you take acts in furtherance of worldwide revolution. All right, obscenity. You are not free to curse. It is not protected speech. But generally, if you're screaming an obscenity and it's related to political issues, it gets more protected than other obscenities. So you're not protected to curse at me. That is not part of your free speech or anyone else or a judge. You are not at liberty to do that without facing consequence. But what's truly obscene is darn, sakes alive, shucks, obscene. Most people would say no. What about the 7 words Carlin said you're not supposed to say? Yeah, probably those for sure. But obscenity is, there is a legal standard for it. And it gets complicated based on the particulars. Like, particularly, is it adult entertainment? Is it pornography? Is all pornography obscene? Is any sexual content? Uh, it just kind of depends on how you look at it. By the way, generally speaking, in all sectors, we support people's free speech. Look at this sign that appears in your woods. This is park. This area has been set aside for individuals or groups expressing their constitutional First Amendment rights. In other words, people are going to come here and say stuff that are going to hurt your feelings. But because you have free expression, we're going to let them do it. The National Park Service neither encourages nor discourages or otherwise endorses these activities and receives no fund in relation to these activities. In other words, some people that are gross are going to say some gross things. If you don't want to hear it, get out. That's America. All right, let's talk about the Due Process Clause. The Due Process Clause is found in the 14th Amendment, and it works with the First Amendment to guarantee civil liberties. It instructs the states that no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or process without due process of law. This is in the US Constitution. What does that mean? The government's supposed to treat you fairly. There's supposed to be some kind of process to make sure this happens. But not just the federal government. The state government's supposed to do this too. Why they need this? Because the state governments were not treating slaves and recently freed slaves fairly. That's why this was needed. This is called incorporation. Let's make sure we got all the notes. Oh, I missed one on the last one. Oh, forgot freedom of assembly. Oh, press is part of freedom of speech too. All right, freedom of assembly and petition. You have the right not to assemble wherever you want. You can't assemble to create a revolution. You can assemble if you're planning to be peaceful. Protected speech. That is protected assembly. The U.S. has a long history of civil disobedience or nonviolent displays of protest, and there protects within they protect written petitions as well, so you can complain, especially if you're not using words. A bunch of students started wearing these black armbands because their friends were getting killed in Vietnam, their brothers, people a little bit older than them, and they were protesting. Principal said you can't wear that at school. So those students, being good Americans, sued. And that case went all the way up to Supreme Court. Turns out those students could wear the black armbands. You are allowed to do it because it's not disruptive to the school. If it was something totally disruptive, like burning draft cards in class, you can't do that. But you can wear a black armband in protest of the deaths happening in Vietnam. Most demonstrations occur on public property. As long as you're not trespassing, you can do it on private property, but you do not have the right to break trespassing laws on private property. You don't have the right to go to, like, I don't know, Trump's house and protest there, or Obama's house. Just have that right. Because the trespassing is not, you're not given permission to trespass in support of your complaints. All right, let's finish those notes. Freedom of association is the right to associate with others in political, economic, and social causes. But you do not have the right to associate with fellow gang members, fellow mafia members, fellow insurgents. You don't have the right to assemble to commit crime. If they can prove there's some kind of crime being planned, they could break up the association without any recourse to the people that are doing it. All right, what do we need to add here? Due process and incorporation. And then we need to get to the notes. Quiz. Up for you, but I think I might talk it through. If you're playing the captions, listen carefully. What are the basic freedoms included in the First Amendment? The basic freedoms included in the First Amendment are freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and they apply to the states. That's enough. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly are the main ideas in the First Amendment. What is the Establishment Clause? The Establishment Clause means the government's not supposed to set up any specific religion. Even though Judeo Christian values underline a lot of government policies, that we have a weekend, that Saturday and Sunday, typically people are not required to work because of the Sabbath, because of the holy day. Or in some places, you're not even allowed to drink on a Sunday. They're what's known as blue laws. What are limits of free speech and press? You may not tell lies about people. You may not, in other words, you can't commit libel or slander. You cannot advocate overthrowing the government, sedition, and you can't say things that are obscene. But the difference between obscenity and art starts to get complicated. What are the limits to free speech? Well, that's limits to free speech and press. Can't tell lies, can't advocate overthrow the government, and obscenity is questionable. Well, that's it. That wraps up this slideshow. I'll make another one for the next topic, rights of the accused. Thank you. Hopefully this was helpful and nice and clear.